That's not a rising healthcare cost. That's half of what we spend per person with universal care. Neither of these parties, neither of these candidates have an answer. Remember, 60 cents of every dollar spent on healthcare is already your money and mine. We're already paying for healthcare, we're just not getting it. Every other country in the world has it. Canadians live 3 years longer, they have less of an obesity rate, less of an infant mortality rate, and yeah, you'll find a Canadian who will complain about their healthcare. You'll also find a lot of Americans, including me, who will complain far more loudly.
And Elise Stefanik gets the last word on this issue.
Oh, it sounds like my Democratic opponent, Aaron Wolf, is embracing the Affordable Care Act 100%. It is clear as you travel this district, whether you're talking to seniors who are seeing cuts, whether you're talking to small businesses who have had their health care coverage canceled, or whether you're talking to individuals. So if Aaron Wolf wants to support Obamacare, that's his decision to do so. I think we need to not only make immediate fixes to Obamacare, but we need a new direction to help lower health care costs.
Could I respond to that?
Well, Mr. Wolf, you actually have the next question, so you may choose who you'd like to ask a question to.
And I can only ask one question, or I can ask a question to each of them?
Each of us.
You can ask one question, and both will respond to the same question.
Huh. Well, I've planned 2 separate questions.
That's a fine mess you've gotten us into.
I had to too. It's okay.
Me too.
I'll begin with you then. Listen, you had this press conference that seemed like kind of a nightmare from your perspective. You invited the press, they started asking questions, and it seemed like only 6 minutes into it, you split. My question would be, what were the questions that provoked that reaction? Why did you leave? And do you embrace Paul Ryan's idea to voucherize Medicare? It seemed like that was one of the things that was maybe going to come up.
Well, Aaron, your campaign seems like a nightmare. When you announced your candidacy, you hid from the press for a month and a half and said you were a press release kind of guy. I've made myself very available on a variety of issues. And when it comes to the Ryan budget, I said on the primary debate stage in my first debate that I would have voted no. I believe that when it comes to Social Security, we need to protect and preserve these programs, not only for seniors of today, but for future generations. So, unlike you, I want to actually work across the aisle to fix these programs. This is what's wrong with Washington. This is what people are tired of, is the negative partisan attacks. And I hope to be able to work across the aisle to solve these issues.
If I might respond as well. The reason why I left the press conference, oh, wait a minute. No, that wasn't me. Essentially, the question borders on Social Security, so I will answer the question about Social Security. What I would do is I would affect H.R. 1029, or at least become a sponsor of it, and attempt to advocate for it, which raises the tax cap from $117,000 of income to $250,000 of income. Basically is a loophole that currently exists that allows us to underfund our own Social Security. And I'm saying let's not privatize it, let's not voucherize it or Medicare. They're programs we pay for as workers. Let's just make sure it is secured for the future. H.R. 1029 secures it for the foreseeable future.
And you get the final word, Mr. Wolf.
The final word on Social Security for me is that I don't trust Washington bureaucrats to do even what Matt Funicello is proposing. This is a solemn pact with the voters of the North Country, with the citizens of the United States. This is one of the most socially responsible pieces of legislation we have ever passed. I will not change Social Security. I will make sure that it is solvent by growing the economy. I will help pass comprehensive immigration reform, which will add $30 billion to the Social Security Trust Fund annually. These are the steps we need to take, but no changes now because I don't trust Washington.
Candidate Stefanik, would you like to rebut?
Sure. I think this is an example of Aaron Wolf peddling partisan talking points and not putting forth solutions. As I said, when Aaron Wolf accused my campaign on the press issues, Aaron Wolf has been the least transparent candidate in this race, the least accessible to local media outlets, the candidate who said he runs his campaigns by press releases. He's a press release kind of guy and didn't speak to the media for the first month and a half. For 15 months, I've been working hard traveling this district talking about my commitment to protecting Social Security and Medicare for our seniors and for future generations, so no changes.
I would like to
keep talking because you get to ask the next question.
Sure. My next question is actually to you, Matt.
Oh, no.
It's a two-part question. The first part
Wait a minute.
It's lighthearted. The first part is lighthearted. You make really great bread. What's the secret sauce? And then the second part of the question is, can you please explain to the viewers this evening why you think Aaron Wolf should drop out of this race?
Oh my gosh. I have to be honest, Elise. First of all, the way we make great bread is with time. There's no question about that. We make naturally leavened bread, and it takes a very long time to make it, up to 20 hours from start to finish.
Wow.
And it's made with love. Not by everybody who works for me. So we are very working class. We do drink some beer and watch some NASCAR occasionally. There is a little bit of anger at 2 o'clock in the morning with no sleep. But to answer your second question, I'm not sure I'm just calling on Aaron to drop out of the race. Why don't you drop out too?
I'm not going to drop out, Matt.
I ask that only, it is lighthearted, but it's not lighthearted too. The reality is we have an opportunity right here at this exact point in time. You have a third-party candidate on the ballot in a congressional race. You usually vote Democrat or Republican. Why are you doing that? We've been doing this my entire lifetime. How's that working for us? What's the legislation you like? Can you name a single piece of it? This is the problem with Washington. Real human beings run, but they're running with people's money from outside the district. We have to stop them from doing that. Both of them. And the only way you're going to do that is if you vote for me. It's an historic opportunity. Please take it. Be brave.
Well, Matt, you have said recently that you, if you were elected, you would refuse to caucus either with the Republicans or the Democrats. That means Matt would refuse to work with either party. It would be a protest vote. And I think that that's not what we need here in the New York 21st. What we need is somebody who is willing to work across the aisle. I'm the only candidate up here who's not driven by a conservative or a liberal ideology. And I think Matt Funicello's idea about being the only green in Congress is wonderful in the abstract. It's not good for the New York 21st.
I definitely would like an opportunity to rebut that. Yes?
Yes.
Essentially, you have to ask yourself this. What happens when you elect a Democrat or Republican other than that they join their major party in being a backbencher? They become totally irrelevant as a congressional representative. That's what's going to happen when you elect Elise or Aaron to some degree. What I'm going to do is be able to advocate to the national media for these issues that are important to workers in the middle class. Single-payer health care, $15 living wage, ending corporate welfare, green jobs. These are things that exist everywhere else in the world. We can do them here too. We just have to have the vision and the courage to actually make this happen. We can do it. You elect Aaron, you're not going to see him do any of the things he's saying. He's just going to be a hired vote.
And Ms. Stefanik, you get a chance to ask a question again.
Okay, so we are doing both candidates.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so my question now is for Aaron, and it's about foreign policy, so it's shifted in what we were discussing, but increasingly voters are seeing foreign policy in the news. And my question is, do you support President Obama's decision to establish a red line in Syria and then not enforce that red line? And what do you think the consequences of that decision are?
I think President Obama has failed in his Syria policy, and I think he has failed in his ability to help contain the Ebola crisis. These are things that are extremely important. The United States, as we're seeing with the Ebola crisis, as we're seeing with ISIS, the United States has an important role in the world, a leadership role, and I don't think that he has expressed leadership on these two issues. I'd like to specifically say, with respect to Ebola, this was an opportunity for the United States to step in to help contain a disease which is now threatening Americans at home. With respect to Syria, the President did not work in concert with other nations. I think there are Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, all have strong standing armies. We should be working in concert with them. What I'm worried about, though, with Ms. Stefanik is that she has been such a powerful advocate for boots on the ground in her capacity as a director of the Foreign Policy Initiative. I think that's something that we have to be incredibly careful of, and her hawkish record on foreign policy doesn't make me feel any better than the President's.
Mr. Funicello.
I would like to say, first and foremost, I'm not a fan of Barack Obama's presidency, as I was not a fan of George W. Bush's either. That might come as no surprise. But I'm not going to blame Barack Obama for the situation with ISIS or for the Ebola virus. That's patently ridiculous. A president is a glorified sales representative for the corporations that put him or her in office. That's it. So what I'm saying to you is, why don't we look at the actual HRs? HR 2057. sponsored by Justin Amash, who is a Republican, is really simple, and it's that we go back to the constitutional laws of our country.